Hey everyone, Alex and Ben with the Fantasy Chairmen here. I wanted to let you all in on a great opportunity to win some awesome signed memorabilia while also being able to give back to a great cause.
This August and September, the Fantasy Chairmen are holding a raffle drawing contest where 100% of the proceeds will go to the Roundup City Racers, a nonprofit 501c3 fundraising program created by coaches of the Pendleton High School track and cross-country teams to provide athletic and scholarship opportunities to the youth of Pendleton, Oregon.
By purchasing a ticket to the Fantasy Chairman Fall Raffle Fundraiser, you will be contributing to a great cause. All proceeds go directly to the Roundup City Racers and back into the youth of Pendleton, Oregon, and any contributions you make is completely tax deductible. You also have the chance to win either a signed Todd Gurley LA Rams jersey or a signed Allen Robinson Chicago Bears jersey.
So what are you waiting for? For more information, visit www.fantasychairman.com and click on the Pay It Forward tab, or click the link in this episode's description. Hey-o!
We're back.
We're
new and improved.
We're new now.
Yeah, we are.
This is the Fantasy Chairmen Podcast relaunch.
2.0, baby.
That's it.
2.0.
We've been talking to our leagues, talking about our leagues. Not really pushing anything out, but here we are. We're ready to be out in the public. Let you people hear our mediocre, fairly decent advice.
Yeah, I'd say mediocre at best right now. Baby steps.
We got a couple champions amongst us. It's okay.
Just a few. So, but yes, baby steps in the beginning, you know. I mean, we're fanalists, so we're not professionals by any means, but hey, we're here to talk fantasy football.
Speak for yourself.
Okay.
This is a fantasy football podcast, if you haven't picked up on that.
Yes.
We are the Fantasy Chairmen, and my name is Ben.
My name's Alex.
And we're here to give you all the best advice that we possibly can and kind of tell you what we're doing in our own teams and
our own opinions and
let you know about players that we like.
And take it for what you will.
We'll talk about redraft. We'll talk about dynasty. Might throw some DFS in there. Ooh. Maybe a little bit of best ball from time to time.
Ooh.
I don't know. We'll explore. We'll explore. Most of our advice is going to be based around 12-team half-point PPR scoring. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of the standard nowadays.
And mainly, we're going to bounce back and forth between redraft and dynasty league.
Yeah,
as
kind of
well.
our main focus is there. So we'll let you into the workings of our leagues, kind of tell you about what's going on in there. You can take some of that info, maybe work it into your own leagues if you like it. If you don't like it, then you can just ignore it. That's fine too. But we've got some cool stuff coming up for you. We've got, with part of this relaunch, we've got a few episodes of this, the Fantasy Chairmen Podcast. Our first episode today is going to be Blind Resume, and then we'll bring a redraft mock draft to you, followed by our Chairman's Choices.
That's our big one there. Big one. That's our Chairman's Choice is essentially one player at each position that we're going to be, myself and Ben, will be trying to acquire on every team if we can possible this fantasy season.
The players that we want to plant our flag on for this year that we have the strongest of beliefs in. So we'll be doing that as part of our relaunch week here and our release week. And we'll have a special guest on. I'll introduce him in a minute, but we've got a side podcast of the Fantasy Chairmen that he and I will be doing together. Before we introduce him, get on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Chairman Fantasy and at FindFFLeagues. At FindFFLeagues is just a Twitter service where you can get on. You tweet at us, and we'll We'll retweet if you have any openings in a league and you're looking to fill it, or if you're looking for a particular style of league, we'll get on there and we'll send out what you're looking for and see if we can find a fit for you. So that's just a service that we just started to connect other members of the industry as well. So if you're just starting out in podcasting like us, or any sort of content production, we'll get on there, we'll retweet with you, we'll interact with you and get you into groups and that sort of thing. So at Chairman Fantasy and at FindFF Leagues, our website is www.fantasychairmen.com. And that is a work in progress right now. Hopefully we'll have that cleaned up and running smooth here within this NFL season. So
you can find and download us on most of your podcast listening devices. So Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker. We're on Spreaker too.
I think we're on Spreaker.
Okay.
Anchor. You can find us all over the place. We'll just be out there on most of the major podcast listening.
And if you guys like the show, just rate and review us, and that's going to help us out in the long run. So we're just starting out here, and appreciate all the help we can get along the way. So
shoot over those 5-star reviews. We'll be happy to return the favor if you happen to be in the industry or just in podcasting in general.
Or heck, we'll give you a digital high five for the 5-star.
Oh yeah, always. Maybe shout you out if you give us a good review. Who knows? We're playing around with this. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, on our first episode of our relaunch week here, we've got a good one for you, doing some blind resumes, taking some players from various positions, a couple quarterbacks, like 4 running backs.
Something like that, yeah.
A few wide receivers and a couple tight ends, and how are we gonna do this, Alex?
So we're gonna have a player with all of the stats and point totals on one side, player A, and then we'll have player B matched up alongside of him, and we're going to have our guests try to guess correctly who player A and player B is, and then we will reveal who the player is. So the allure of this is that if sometimes the name gets too much fixation, and if you can take the name out of it sometimes and just look at the pure stats, it might actually surprise you that you might actually be able to get similar production maybe a little later on in the draft rather than paying up for the high-priced name value.
Yeah, let's just say with some of the names that you're going to hear on this blind resume, might be a little surprising when you hear them compared to the other player. But now, let's go ahead and introduce our guest that we will have trying to discover or guess who each player is in this blind resume episode. He is a member of the Fantasy Chairmen. He does not know who we put in on this blind resume episode, so he's going to be in the dark just hearing these stats, trying to give us who he thinks it is. Member of the Fantasy Chairmen, he is the Fantasy Sasquatch himself, co-host of the spin-off podcast of ours that we will be releasing alongside this podcast during our relaunch week, called the Sasquatch Square Off. That is Matt Beatty, the Fantasy Sasquatch. Welcome in, Matt.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's dandy.
Every time we ever record anything with you. Hi, guys. How are you today?
Hello. How are you?
Well, Fantasy Squatch. You can find the Fantasy Squatch on Twitter at Fantasy Squatch. He'll be on there tweeting out some of our episodes of the Sasquatch Square Off, and just get into that a little bit before we dive into this episode full bore. The Sasquatch Square Off is going to be me and Matt going back and forth. We're going to have 4 players. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah, probably just 2 sets.
Right. So we'll have 2 rounds basically of debates on players that you're going to find very close in ADP, that's average draft position, when you're drafting. And usually these players are going to be like 2 players that you're going to like a lot, that the majority of people are like, oh man, I would be okay drafting them, I'd be okay drafting them. But if they pop up at that round of your draft, you can't decide who to take. Matt and I are going to go back and forth, and we're going to try to sway you one way or the other on those players. So the first couple episodes in this relaunch week that we've got going on are going to be kind of some high-profile early round players, and then as we go further into it, as we release more episodes, we're going to dive a little deeper, get into the later rounds, and try to make some of those decisions easier for you. But we just may end up confusing you more. Who knows?
That's entirely possible.
Yeah. But it's going to be fun. Matt's going to put on his boxing gloves and his Sasquatch football helmet, and we're going to go back and forth on some guys throughout those episodes. So, like I said, a lot of fun things coming up with the Fantasy Chairmen.
I'm excited. We're putting it out to the people now, general public. This is, we initially started out with just doing our redraft league and our dynasty league, and it was kind of just an audio version of our weekly league note, and then we kind of expanded into doing this now. And now I think we've got a year of doing that with just our 2 leagues there under our belt, and I think we're ready to try and put content out to the public, so it's fun. It's exciting.
Oh, yeah. I'm loving it. We're going to be partnering up as well with various charitable organizations for our first season here. As we kind of open to the public, we're going to be joining up with various youth sports groups in our area. So we're based in a smaller town in Oregon, and we're going to be partnering up with some of the youth sports leagues around here and doing raffles. We have signed memorabilia from some NFL stars that we will be raffling off, trying to raise money to help some of these organizations out, especially in this challenging time that we're going through. A lot of these organizations were unable to get things up and running because, as everybody knows, things have been closed down due to COVID-19 and the coronavirus. So a lot of these youth sports leagues are missing out on a lot of money this year, and we would just like to be able to help them out by doing some auctions, or not auctions, but raffles on these items. So we'll have some promos thrown into these episodes with where you can go to get tickets for these raffles and the items that will be up to win in those as well. And so
there's some cool stuff.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated on what we've got out there and who we'll be partnering with, and how you can give back to some of these charitable organizations, these youth sports leagues.
Can I be in the raffle?
You cannot be in the raffle, Alex.
I can't.
You are not eligible. You can donate, though. You can certainly donate.
We're not going to raffle Alex off?
Oh, well, I didn't mean that, but yeah,
that's on.
I don't know if I'm okay with that.
No,
you already agreed to it.
I don't think anyone wants to buy a ticket for me.
Yeah, we're gonna keep him around here, right, yeah. I guess for now.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see.
Okay. Well, let's dive into this thing, man.
All right, yeah. Let's we'll jump into our blind resume here. Let's go ahead and take a quick break first. What's up, y'all? Ben from the Fantasy Chairmen Podcast and the Sasquatch Square Off here, and I want to tell you all about Anchor. If you've ever thought about getting into the podcasting game, you need to be using Anchor. For one, it's free. That's right, completely free, and you get unlimited storage to hold all your episodes, all your audio clips, all your listener voice messages in one place, making it super easy for you to use. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. It's literally as easy as clicking a button. You can make money from your podcast on Anchor with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. And we're back. Okay, now we can dive in, Alex.
Okay, let's dive in now.
Are you ready now?
I'm ready. Got my swim cap on, ready to dive.
That's right. That's my fault. I forgot to tell you we were going to take a break right there.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, here we go. Blind resume. So how this is going to work is I will give us the position that we're going to be discussing. and then Alex is going to go through and read the stats for player A and player B. And Fantasy Squatch, you still with us there?
I am. Okay. Hi, guys.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
Every time. So cordial. So cordial. We gotta work on that there, Matt. Anyway, so Matt's going to listen intently to the stats as they're read, and he's going to try to give us who he thinks is the player that we are giving stats for. You ready for this, Alex?
Let's do it.
Okay. First position group we're going to be discussing is the quarterbacks. We've got player A and player B here, and like we said, you're going to hear some of these stats, and you're going to be a little surprised at how they match up here. So, Alex, take it away.
All right, Matt. So, first player here, player A, had 607 pass attempts. He had 388 completions for 4,039 yards. He threw 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. He also had 62 rush attempts for 243 yards, which is about 3.92 yards per attempt. And he had 1 rushing touchdown. Do we want to give him the point total too? Fantasy point total probably might help.
Maybe the fantasy point total.
All right, and the fantasy point total for the year is half PPR as well, but it's quarterback, so it doesn't really matter. But he scored 275 points on the year.
4-point touchdowns?
Yes.
Passing touchdowns, yes.
4-point passing touchdowns.
Passing touchdowns, yes. Just regular, yes.
Okay.
All right. Do you have an idea who you think player A might be?
Gardner Minshew.
It is not Gardner Minshew.
Dang it.
Well, let me give you player B now. Maybe you can compare and contrast these two. So player B threw 484 pass attempts for 319, and he had 319 completions. He threw for 4,031 yards.
Don't mind the dog noise.
That was weird. Just coughing up a hairball, apparently. 4,031 yards. Threw 26 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He also had 43 rush attempts for 218 yards, which is good for about 5.07 yards per attempt, and had 2 rushing touchdowns and scored 287 fantasy points.
Well, I feel like I'm on the spot now because at first I was about to say Deshaun Watson, and then you said 2 rushing touchdowns. I'm sure he has more than 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to go with, did you say 4,100 passing yards for this guy?
4,031 passing yards.
31. Okay, 431 would be. Man. I'm on the spot. Let's see.
We do have a couple hints down here.
Got a couple hints I can give you
well.
if you're stumped right now.
I'll take one hint.
Okay, so player A played in 16 games. Player B played in 14 games.
Oh no! Is one of these Patrick Mahomes?
Ooh.
Maybe.
Ooh! Oh no!
One of them is. Which one do you think it is?
The 21-7 is Pat.
The
21. The guy with the first player A is Pat. I think.
Player A is not Pat.
Player A played 16 games.
Oh, that's right. So player B is Pat.
Yeah. Player B is Patrick Mahomes.
You got it.
Okay.
He finished as a quarterback 7 on the season.
So player A has to be. I don't know. Those are some pretty decent stats, especially completion percentage.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are who. Can I ask who it is yet, or do you want me to guess one more time?
I'll give you one more hint. Okay. He finished as the QB 10 on the season.
QB 10. So we're going QB 7, QB 10, and this guy played 16 games.
Yep.
And neither of them. Okay. I'm stumped. I'm just going to throw out a random guess.
Don't be looking stuff up on your phone now.
No, trust me, I'm not.
Are you stumped?
I'm stumped. I've got throw out a random guess.
I've got one more hint for you.
Okay.
What's your random guess, though? I want to hear.
I was just going to say something like Jared Goff.
Ooh.
It's not Jared Goff.
No, but I will tell you one more hint for this guy is he had like grocery store clerks that he was throwing to.
So it's Carson Wentz.
You go.
Carson Wentz.
There you go.
Yep.
So
Greg Ward Jr. he checked out my groceries.
Pretty much.
No, I'm kidding. He actually did really well.
Yeah, well, Greg Ward. Yeah, no, he could be maybe a sneaky like deep dynasty pickup. Maybe
it's not going to be one I'm going to be worrying about.
There are a lot of rookie wide receivers there now. They took some towards like the back end of the draft. They've got Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, all them there. There's a lot of mouths there, but I don't know the way Greg Ward played. He may be able to find a good spot on the team.
So if Greg Ward is fantasy relevant this year, the Philadelphia fan base is going to be throwing batteries again.
Yeah.
I'm calling that right now.
Kind of interesting stat lines, though. I mean, now Patrick Mahomes did get injured, and he played only in 14 games. But, in that 14 games, if you could probably assume Mahomes at least close to 20 points for each of those games. So he would be a little closer to 307 points. So,
yeah.
Well, the other thing, it's funny that I said Gardner Minshew in place of Patrick Mahomes.
You said I think
you said Minshew on the first one.
Minshew for player A.
Oh, for Carson Wentz. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So,
well, I think that I don't know how you want to put this, but I think that Pat Mahomes kind of had more of like a win year than a fantasy year last year. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, he won the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, but you can win the Super Bowl and be Mike Vick from 2001, and just tear people apart. But you know what I'm saying, though?
Oh, yeah. Well, on a points per game basis, Pat Mahomes still scored 20.9 points.
I guess the point we were trying to make here on this one was Pat Mahomes, yeah, he played 2 less games, but also Carson Wentz had like 0 people to throw to, and he was still able to put up 275 points.
It's more of a shining light on Carson Wentz than putting Patrick Mahomes down, because we know what Patrick Mahomes is. We know what he's going to be. But just when you look at Wentz as quarterback 10 on the season and then finishing that close to Patrick Mahomes, even though Mahomes only played 14 games, a lot of people are kind of down on Wentz.
Pat Mahomes in a redraft half-point PPR league, he's probably going, someone's probably taking a chance on him in the 3rd round, in conservative leagues, 3rd, 4th round. But Carson Wentz, man, you could probably wait till way late, like 8th round.
Yeah, I'd have to look at what his average draft position is right now, but you could definitely get him a whole lot later than you were able to a year ago, 2 years ago for sure.
Exactly.
So it's
if you want to be down on Carson Wentz, you are out of your mind, because even Miles Sanders is going to be catching touchdown passes. That guy isn't a runner. He's not going to. That team is built to pass, and the draft shows it.
They got one of the best O-lines in football too. So it just goes to show, don't be down on Carson Wentz.
No, bad idea.
All right, well, let's do our next one here. We got a running back duo here for you.
Jump into running backs here, Alex.
Oh, did you want to do the ADP?
I'll look up Carson Wentz's ADP here real quick, and then while you go ahead and jump into this, and I can throw that out here.
Okay.
Are we talking 1 QB leagues for those ADPs?
Yes, 1 QB leagues. They're not Superflex.
Okay, cool.
So running backs now. Remember, half-point PPR leagues. Player A had 278 carries for 1,230 yards. He had 4.4 yards per attempt and had 7 rushing touchdowns. He also had 37 receptions on 47 targets for 266 yards at 7.2 yards per reception. and 2 receiving touchdowns and scored 214 fantasy points. Any idea who you think player A is, or you want me to go player B?
I got 2 bad guesses right now, but...
Okay, why don't you hold your guesses then if they're bad guesses? Maybe player B
They're bad,
help.
yeah. I know they're bad.
Okay, player B. Player B had 278 carries for 1,137 yards, 4.1 yards per attempt, 5 rushing touchdowns. He had 35 receptions on 45 targets for 287 receiving yards, good for 8.2 yards per reception, and had 3 receiving touchdowns and scored 207 points.
Okay. You want me to guess?
Sure.
Okay.
Who's your first guess? Player A or B?
Okay, first one, player A. And I'll just do this one at a time. My first guess was, and I don't know why, but this is just the name that popped in my head. Is it Austin Eckler?
It is not Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler had close to 1,000 receiving yards.
Yeah, he was like 900 and some receiving yards. These guys each had
200 and something receiving yards.
Player A was 266. Player B was 287.
That was a terrible guess. My second guess was Leonard Fournette. I feel like it was a little better guess.
No, it wasn't Fournette. I think Fournette had a good chunk of receiving yards as well. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Fournette caught a lot more passes than what people realized last year.
Okay, I'll give you 2 hints.
Okay.
Player A played in 15 games. Player B played in 16 games.
Is player A Todd Gurley?
It is not Todd Gurley.
Oh,
Dang it.
That's a decent guess, though.
Good guess. You're not even trying on player B. You're trying to get player A first.
Yeah, I'm just systematically.
I'll give you the last hint on player A. Player A was the running back 11 on the season.
Okay. How many games did James Conner play last year?
I don't think it was 15.
I don't either.
And it's not James Conner.
and I feel like Le'Veon had a lot of yards, like a ton of receiving yards, because I think his yard per carry was like 3.7 or something last year.
Yeah. Conner only played 10 games last year.
Yeah, he was out half the season. So what about? And I know Aaron Jones had like 17 touchdowns, and his thing's whacked. So this guy's got to be someone.
Are you just talking what you're thinking right now? You got to give us a guess, man.
No, he's giving us his thought process.
What about Chris Carson?
It is Chris Carson.
Hey, there you go.
Chris Carson.
Running back 11 on the season, Chris Carson.
All right, who's player B?
Wait, Chris Carson played 15 games?
Yep.
Yeah, he played 15 games. He was only hurt.
He was hurt 1 game.
He got hurt in like the week before their last game.
Yep.
Oh my! I thought he played like 5 or 6.
No, I think he got hurt in week 16 last year. No, man, he was fine pretty much all the year. Well,
everyone was worried about the
now.
Well, yeah, the hip injury thing, but the fumbling thing. I think people were just fixated on that.
That's what the big talk with Chris Carson was last year.
Yeah.
Fumbling.
7 fumbles,
I
believe?
7 or 8. So.
And it was all within like a really short stretch, too.
All right, who's player B? Last hint. Running back.
Can you give me total rushing yards and touchdowns one more time for player B?
1,137 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns.
Okay. So somebody that broke 1,000 with really. Oh wait, is it Kamara?
It is not Kamara. Played 16 games.
Yeah, Kamara was out a little bit more than that.
He only played 14. Huh?
This running back finished. Your last hint. Running back 13.
Well, it's not Melvin Gordon because he held out too many games.
Yep.
He held out like 8
4 games, didn't he? 8 games?
Yeah, it was like 4, but then he was hurt for a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kamara played 14 games last year, so it was. But this guy played in all 16.
He played all 16. What is it on the east side of the country or the west side?
Okay, here's your last hint. Okay. His team mascot is a exotic cat.
Okay, so obviously, wait.
Yeah, there's a few of them. There's a few cats out there.
Because the first thought is, I mean, obviously it's not Christian McCaffrey, but okay.
No,
so
who's the other exotic cat out there?
Leonard Fournette.
Oh man,
no. There's one other one out there.
More exotic cats.
Dude, let me tell you. So this guy had 35 receptions, 45 targets, 287 yards. Leonard Fournette last year had 100 targets, 75 receptions, and like 550 something yards. So just to put that into perspective for what Leonard Fournette did in the receiving game last year was actually very impressive.
Okay, Matt, this team is also known as the Bungles.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon.
There you go.
So, but, I mean, look at the carries. I mean, Chris Carson played one less game than Joe Mixon, and they both had 278 carries. Carson actually had more yards than Mixon in rushing yards and had more touchdowns.
Man, if Chris Carson can stay healthy, if that hip does not flare up, he is
RB1.
And would you say
not the RB1,
overall.
not the RB1, but
overall.
finishing as an RB1?
Somebody between RB12 and RB1.
Okay.
Well, he did finish as an RB1. He was running back 11. He was a running back 1.
Right. But
I've been maybe top 12, top 8.
Yeah,
But Matt, would you say when you think of Joe Mixon and Chris Carson that Joe Mixon is the more elite receiving option?
I think he's the more all-around running back. Do
you think he's a better receiving option though?
Yes, I would say. I think that, like, in a vacuum, yes.
Well, Carson had 2 more receptions and 2 more targets on top of him and only scored 1 less receiving touchdown. So that's just something that...
I wonder who's the more drop-down guy. Did you say 2 more targets?
2 more targets and 1 less touchdown than Mixon.
It's going to be interesting to see.
It's just, when you think of those two, you don't put Mixon and Carson right next to each other when you're drafting, but the stats are dang near very similar, and Carson played 1 less game.
Yeah, I mean, you think about McKissick and all those pass-catching backs that they've had in the past, so you kind of just generalize Carson as a between-the-tackles type of guy since they've had so many.
Well, Carson had to deal with Penny for last year too. So, I mean, it's not like there wasn't somebody in the weight. I mean, Mixon has, Gio and those guys, but... Oh, yeah, Gio's been fading, man. Poor Gio.
Gio. So, Chris Carson right now being drafted as of 2 days ago, I think this data is from July 20th. Chris Carson being drafted as the running back 16, going 31 overall. That's terrible. I mean, it's
when you think of the numbers now.
Yeah, well, yeah. When you look at that, and then you see, trying to find Joe Mixon here. Joe Mixon being drafted as the RB7. He's on the hype train, and up there he is most certainly on the hype train. There's a lot of unknowns for both of these players between Chris Carson's hip and Joe Mixon having a rookie quarterback coming in Joe Burrow. Who Alex and I both believe in, but still the question marks of the O-line, who we think can only get better from where they were at last year because it was so bad. It was so Swiss bad. Cheese. But it's a Swiss cheese. So there's question marks in both those guys. I can understand Joe Mixon being drafted ahead of Chris Carson, but it's just pretty interesting to just look at how similar in the workload they got and where they finished with where Chris Carson's being drafted now and with where Joe Mixon is being drafted.
And to be fair, I want to say also, the Seahawks have had a terrible offensive line for the last 5 years.
Yeah, both teams have bad offensive lines.
Absolutely.
So that's really not that big of a deal.
No.
I thought, because we talk about offensive lines, and the Bengals might be ranked 32nd, but the Seahawks might be ranked 25th.
I mean, 28th. They're right back there for sure. I know Pro Football Focus has, I think the Bengals ranked at 31 again, and Seahawks right about, I think you're right, Matt, like right around 28. So, all right, let's move on. We got 2 more running backs here that we're going to be discussing, and then we'll jump into wide receivers after that. Alex, what do we got for player A for these next 2 running backs?
So player A, we've got player A had 151 carries for 775 yards, 5.1 yards per attempt, and had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Can you wait? Hold up. Watch this. Devin Singletary.
It is Devin Singletary.
Whoa!
I kind of figured that you'd guess that one because he's on your dynasty team.
Whoa!
So.
I didn't even. Once I heard 5.1775.
The Fantasy Squatch has got Devin Singletary just memorized.
And why is that?
Everything.
Why is that, Matt?
I seriously have to talk for him, and I have to just defend him in every forum.
It's because you're trying to trade him everywhere.
No, I'm even in the Q&As, and I'm like, dude, take Miles Sanders' stats from last year and Devin Singletary's. They're in very similar situations. Their stats are almost identical. Even if you give the pace to, because you were about to say what, he played 14 games or 15,
12.
13?
12 games, yeah.
12. So if you take his pace, he's the better runner, but Miles Sanders obviously is very explosive and, making people miss.
Well, I don't know if I agree with Singletary being the better runner than Sanders, but I think, I don't know.
I don't know. I love the way Devin Singletary played last year. I thought, when he got the opportunity, he looked good. He ran well. Obviously, had a great yards per attempt when he was when he got to run the ball. The problem with Devin Singletary is just his upside is just capped by the fact that Josh Allen is the goal line back.
Well, now
the quarterback, Josh Allen, is the goal line back. And then they brought in Zach Moss, who a lot of people are projecting will be in the Frank Gore role, Frank Gore, and I can't remember the numbers on his goal line carries. It was 18, I believe, right in that range. And
compared to Singletary's 2 goal line carries the entire year.
Yeah, exactly. And then Gore, I think Gore only got into the end zone twice on those 18 carries. But Josh Allen had, I want to say, right around 5 touchdowns within that 5-yard line.
Yeah. So
rushing touchdowns. So
all right, well, here's player B for you. Player B, 172 carries, 724 yards, 4.2 yards per attempt for 6 touchdowns. He had 31 receptions on 40 targets for 309 yards, which is good for about 10 yards per reception. He had no receiving touchdowns and scored 150 points.
You're going to have fun with this one.
Quick clarifying question here. Did Philip Lindsay split last year, or did he have the full backfield?
He split for part of the year. So it was through 13 games. Let the Broncos fan take this one, Alex.
Yeah, all right.
It was through 12 or 13 games. It was pretty 50-50 between him and Royce Freeman. And then it might have been after their bye week, actually, that Philip Lindsay started to get the majority of the work in the backfield. But he split for most of the year pretty evenly.
How many carries did you say B had?
He had 172 carries.
And did he play all 16?
Yep.
Did you say?
Played 16 games.
Wow.
Finished as running back 26.
I want to say someone like Kerryon Johnson.
It was not Kerryon Johnson.
Johnson.
Johnson. It seems like a Kerryon Johnson, Philip Lindsay, Matt Breida, Tevin Coleman.
None of those guys.
I mean,
Dang it.
Philip Lindsay, I think you kind of take out of there, but Carry On and Tevin, I would group into probably this guy, like when you think about these types of backs, like a running back 3-ish, like, somebody you don't necessarily want to jump on drafting super early, but might have some upside if something happened to the other backs in their backfield or whatever. But
wait, let me. What about all 16 games? I have not looked at David Johnson's complete stats last year.
David Johnson did not play all 16 games.
No, yeah, David.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he was out for 4 games, I believe, 3 or 4.
This guy's obviously splitting.
This man is not touted very highly for his pass catching abilities. Does that help you at all? He has two phenomenal wide receivers on his team.
Oh man, are we talking about a Buccaneer here?
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I think you're honing in here.
We might be talking about Ronald Jones.
Hey,
Ronald Jones.
I just had to walk you to it.
Yeah,
that's all right. That's all right. These are not easy to guess. Alex took me through a few of these, and I could not figure some of them out, and many of them were very surprising to me. But Alex,
Jones
just
is a tough one.
Just walk us through here, Alex, on just compare kind of Devin Singletary and Ronald Jones. Just give us kind of a back-to-back just so we can hear it.
So your yardages, I mean, obviously there's a 4-game difference in between the two, but even in just in 4 games difference, Singletary was able to reach the almost same amount of yardage rushing-wise with almost 20 less carries. So, Singletary had 775 rushing yards versus Jones's 724 rushing yards. And then Singletary, you would have thought of him as more of the receiving back compared to Ronald Jones, but Jones had 40 targets compared to Singletary's 41, and Jones had 31 catches versus Singletary's 29. Mm-hmm. So, and actually, Jones had 309 receiving yards compared to Singletary's 194 yards. So, and the 10 yards per reception on Jones' side blows out Singletary's 6.7. So,
right.
Kind of eye-opening, especially when people dog on Ronald Jones saying he's not really a receiving back.
Yeah, I mean, he had 309 yards, which is more. So if we look at our previous 2 running backs that we had in there, you can look at their receiving line, and it's actually very similar. And of the 4 running backs that we've discussed here, Ronald Jones actually had the highest yards per reception. So Chris Carson had a yards per reception of 7.2. Joe Mixon had a yards per reception of 8.2. Devin Singletary had yards per reception of 6.7. And then Ronald Jones was yards per reception of 10. So that just, I think those stats right there kind of help us look at Ronald Jones and say, he can catch the ball a little bit better than everybody tends to think.
Mm-hmm. And with Tom Brady coming to town. Now, granted, they did draft Keyshawn Vaughn, who's supposed to be more of a receiving back compared to Ronald Jones, but I think with the way things are set up, that Ronald Jones is probably going to have the first crack at it. And Tom Brady, what's Tom Brady like to do? He likes to dump it down and check it down, and Ronald Jones might be having a ton of opportunity with little dump offs. And it's not to say that defenses are going to be able to stack the box on Jones either. With Tom Brady, they're going to have to spread him out, especially when you have the receiving arsenal that the Bucs have.
So looking at average draft positions for these 2 guys, Devin Singletary and Ronald Jones, right now as of July 20th, we've got Devin Singletary is being drafted as the running back 22, and Ronald Jones being drafted as the running back 35. So with Devin Singletary, I think these stats kind of do actually put a bit of a shining light on him, and his talent and what he can do. But as far as draft position, he is being drafted probably right around where he should be, just with the potential caps to his upside. Being able to get a back like Ronald Jones back at running back 35 could end up being a steal of the draft if that's the direction they go as a team.
Now, I think some of Ronald Jones's numbers were they were definitely affected by the way that that the Buccaneers games were played last year. I mean, when you have Jameis Winston putting you in a 14-0 hole right off the bat in the first quarter, they're just going to be throwing the rest of the time to try and get caught back up. So that's why Ronald Jones didn't break 200 carries, but he had quite a few receptions compared to what everyone maybe thought in their head.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and also correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone has Miles Sanders on this like godly pedestal this year because as of right now, which that remains to be seen with Devontae Freeman, but I think that I think Ronald Jones might have actually had more yards per reception than even Miles Sanders last year.
I don't know
at 10.
I don't know about that.
Let me see.
If we'd have to look that up
I'll find Miles Sanders here.
Yeah, but it's just I think it was a big attribute to what the Bucs offense was last year. I mean, when they were throwing,
running and gunning,
so
they were 7/8 of the time throwing the ball.
Miles Sanders' yards per reception was 10.2. So his was pretty good. His was up there as well.
Oh yeah,
so
that's good.
Yeah, 10.2 yards per reception for Miles Sanders. All right.
Well, should we jump into wide receiver, or we got a little break?
Yeah, we're gonna jump into wide receivers here. We're gonna take a quick break first, and then we will get into that. We've got 4 wide receivers we're gonna get through, and then we have 2 tight ends, and we will be right back after this. And we're back again. All right. Wide receivers. We got 4 of them. Let's get through this, Alex.
All right. Matt, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Player A had 79 receptions on 119 targets for 1,189 yards, good for 15.1 yards per reception. He had 8 receiving touchdowns and scored 207 fantasy points, half-point PPR.
Okay. What? Can you give me his yards per catch one more time?
15.1.
Tyreek Hill?
Not Tyreek Hill. You want me to give you player B? Maybe contrast?
Yeah, give me player B. Yeah.
Player B had 66 receptions on 113 targets for 1,107 yards, 16.8 yards per reception, had 6 touchdowns, and 179 fantasy points.
179 fantasy points?
179.
Huh. Is player B Keenan Allen?
Player B is not Keenan Allen. I'll give you a hint here. Player A played in 16 games, while player B played in 14 games.
Okay. 16 games, 15 and 16. So these guys are catching balls pretty deep. Speedsters. Doesn't sound like they're top tier. So, what about one more hint?
Last hint.
Yeah, there you go.
Player A was wide receiver 9 on the season, while player B was wide receiver 22.
Oh, okay. So player A, is it Jarvis?
It is not Jarvis.
Dang it.
No.
Oh, is player A Odell Beckham?
It is not Odell Beckham.
Dang it.
So
okay, wait. Okay, well, give me player A.
Well,
Go on.
Okay. So player A, I'm just going to run through it for you again real quick. 79 receptions, 119 targets, 1,189 yards, 15.1 yards per reception, 8 touchdowns, 207 fantasy points, 16
Definitely
games, wide receiver 9. No, not Odell.
You got to take it all into consideration before you throw guesses out.
Definitely not Odell. Definitely not.
Yeah.
So player A and player B are on the same team.
No way.
Player A and player B, same team.
Oh man.
This one.
This is going to be eye-opening.
This is
for
one
you.
that stumped me.
Where are we doing like a Seahawks Lockett and DK Metcalf?
Nope.
Oh no.
Nope.
No,
Dang it, I thought I had it.
Neither one of them finished that high. So
right.
So remember, player A was wide receiver 9, player B wide receiver 22.
Oh, DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller. There's no way.
No.
He's just going to go down every pair of...
He's going to hit them all.
All right, you give up?
I give up. I want it. Well, just give me
Player
A.
A? Well, yeah, you're going to know then. Player A?
Yeah.
Amari Cooper.
Oh, what? The other one's Michael Gallup?
Player
Yes,
B is
sir.
Michael Gallup.
Nice.
Yeah, and we will we'll post the show notes for this on our website, and we might put it out on the Twitter account as well. But so that you can look at the stats side by side. But yeah, when you compare Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, man, 79 receptions for Amari Cooper, 66 for Gallup, 119 targets for Cooper, 113 for Gallup, 1,189 yards for Cooper, 1,107 for Gallup, 15.1 yards per reception compared to 16.8 yards per reception, Cooper to Gallup. 8 touchdowns to 6 touchdowns, and Gallup played in 14 games, so 2 less games than Amari Cooper played in.
Mm-hmm. Now,
and they were that close. Are we sure that Amari Cooper is the wide receiver 1 for the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, we can't. Now we can't forget the fact too that Cooper was dealing with plantar fasciitis for a good beginning chunk of the season. What was it? About 4 to 6 weeks or so.
Yeah,
which
right
you Ben have dealt that.
It doesn't really go away.
Exactly. So Ben,
it is a nagging injury.
Ben,
for sure.
you've dealt with that before, right?
I've had plantar fasciitis, and it's not pleasant. It's especially when you first have it. Yeah, you did tear it. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it doesn't go away. Even if you stop for a year, when you come back, it's like, oh, by the way, I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
So people are absolutely sleeping on Michael Gallup right now. I know they brought in CeeDee Lamb. Amari Cooper's still obviously there, but I mean, with Amari Cooper there, Michael Gallup got his fair share and actually potentially could have ended up being the target leader and reception leader, wide receiver 1 over Cooper had he had those 2 more games
potentially
that he sat out. I mean,
now one thing that we didn't go over here that I know is kind of like the Cooper to Gallup argument was Gallup actually had a number of drops compared to Cooper.
Yeah.
So I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know that's something that a lot of people bring up, how many drops that Gallup had. So something to watch out for. But
the other thing, too, and I don't know how much this has to do with it, but Gallup went off near the end of the season. He just started blowing up.
He had some big games where he exploded pretty good for sure.
I want to say he had a 2 or 3 touchdown game towards the end. Remember that time, Ben, where you had to win that matchup and he cartwheeled into the corner of the end zone?
Man, that was so awesome.
Yeah.
I love that, dude. Michael Gallup was my absolute hero that week.
Yeah.
Absolute hero. So
you were jumping.
Oh man. So anyway, Michael Gallup currently being drafted as the 30th wide receiver off the board. He's being drafted behind AJ Green, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, right by Jarvis Landry, Marquise Brown, Tyler Boyd, those types of guys. Michael Gallup I think he's kind of being slept on. I like Michael Gallup this year. CeeDee Lamb's probably going to draw some coverage off, but I see potentially starting a little bit slow because of everything that's going on right now. Just like I think all rookies are going to start a little slow.
Could be. And with with Randall Cobb and Jason Witten both going to different teams in this offseason. There's a lot of targets there that are up for grabs. So now Blake Jarwin's being brought in as well. He's an young athletic tight end that I'm sure will be utilized. But, yeah, they took CeeDee Lamb. What was he, 18th overall pick in the rookie draft?
Yeah.
So, I mean.
In the actual NFL draft.
In the actual NFL draft, yeah, not rookie draft.
Getting the dynasty lingo in there.
Yeah. But, no, I mean, CeeDee Lamb, they're gonna manufacture touches for him. So,
just to add on to that, there's 151 touches with Randall Cobb and Jason Witten leaving. And Michael Gallup, I think, averaged around 8.3 targets per game last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it's up to speculation, but he's going to at least retain, in my eyes, those 8.3.
No, I could
a little more, like you said.
I could absolutely see that. So, Cooper's got his peaks and valleys. We've all seen that from him.
Gallup had peaks and valleys as well, actually, too. I mean, both of them, it kind of seemed like when one was going off, the other one was a little quieter. So it's just kind of a pick your poison for that week, I guess. But in the sake of this, I mean, the draft position of both of these guys there's a huge gap. So
massive gap. Oh, yeah. They finished their total finish on the season, wide receiver 9 compared to wide receiver 22, is a pretty decent gap there. But when you look at the stats, and had Michael Gallup just been able to stay healthy for 16 games, man, that would have been a whole lot closer. Mm-hmm. Whole lot closer.
Well,
let's move on to the next one.
We should probably move on to the next one. We spent a lot of time on that.
Hey, that's a fun one. I like the Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup comparison, but these next two are pretty good too.
Player A, Matt, had 74 receptions on 133 targets for 1,035 yards. That's good for 14 yards per reception, and he caught 4 touchdowns for 164 points.
Whoa. Is he 5'9"? He's getting no red zone looks.
He's not 5'9".
He's not 5'9".
Okay. He's taller than that.
Okay.
Player B had 83 receptions on 138 targets for 1,174 yards. Good for 14.1 yard per reception and 6 receiving touchdowns for 195 points, half-point PPR.
Okay. I'm going to go with...
Do you need a hint?
Yeah, hints. Definitely hints.
Okay. Both players played in 16 games.
More.
That definitely. That's such a good hint.
And all right, and the last hint we got, player A finished as wide receiver 26, player B wide receiver 13.
Wow, that just goes to show you how close these rankings are. I'm going to go with, you said player B, wide receiver 13?
Yep. About 30-point difference between the two.
There's the Squatch.
164 to 195 points.
There's the Squatch grumble right there.
Yeah, for real. I'm going to go with player B being DJ Chark.
It is not DJ Chark.
Dang it. Okay. I was going to go with player A being Juju Smith.
Player A is not Juju. Juju, no. I don't think played in 16 games.
Yeah, Juju got hurt. He didn't play 16.
Oh, that's right. He got hurt. Dang it. I'm losing it.
We've had you guessing a lot. We had to get you on this show to pick on you in particular, just to mess with you. Just to mess with you, get you riled up before we do some square offs a little bit later.
Yeah, bring my confidence down a little bit.
That's right. Yeah, I gotta get you down. It's not fair going up against a Sasquatch, man. Come on.
I think I'm gonna go with. These are both wide receivers, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Nope, we did a quarterback and a running back on you here, so
they
all caught a lot of balls.
They were really good receiving options.
Is one of these guys Robert Woods?
Oh,
No.
man, nope.
Dang it.
Okay, we're gonna have to give you.
I had one there.
We're gonna have to give you an obvious hint here. You ready?
Well, no, I'll give him a hint. You guessed these two earlier.
DK and Tyler?
No.
No.
They are on the same team again, though.
Oh, it's Jarvis and Odell.
It is. Which one's which?
Yeah. Well, Odell crapped the bed for you guys to keep this thing non-explicit. He really had a terrible season. So I'm going to go with him being the wide receiver, 23? Is that what you said?
26.
26.
So that's player A.
Yeah, Jarvis was just literally getting his every game, and Odell was just, I guess, injured, but in his own world, you know?
Dude, Jarvis Landry's steady Eddie, man.
Yeah, he's always like a mid, like wide receiver, like he's 13 to like 16, 17.
Always
he's right
in that
there.
range. I think two years ago was wide receiver 9. Like, and then
On Miami?
Yeah, on Miami. His last year in Miami, I think he was wide receiver 9. And then even when in his first year in Cleveland, he was like wide receiver 19 or 20, I think. So
he's about as steady as they come in half point and full point PPR receiving. I mean,
yeah, he's not necessarily the type to win you a league, but man, if you just need that consistent flex spot,
yeah.
Jarvis Landry's a good player to have for sure.
And the crazy thing too, if we had both of those guys at a draft day combine in Indianapolis, Odell Beckham would be leagues ahead.
Absolutely,
in form of all overall talent.
Absolutely.
Well, that's
not even close.
That's kind of a part of this thing is take away the names and look at the point totals and the stats here. Like Odell is probably going a round or two ahead of Jarvis, and you can probably get
Odell.
You can get better production, 30 points better than Odell. Now, granted, Odell said he had an abdominal injury that he played through the entire year, but
hernia.
Yeah.
First year in a new system with a new quarterback. I mean,
terrible coach.
I personally, terrible coach.
Kitchens.
Personally, I believe in Odell and just his talent alone. But then, I mean, you look at Odell's being drafted as wide receiver 12. Jarvis being drafted as wide receiver 31. He hasn't finished that low. Jarvis has not finished that low in like 5 years.
When it comes to those two, I will be taking Jarvis over Odell 10 times out of 10.
Give me Jarvis
when it's
at that ranking.
At that ranking,
please.
Yeah. All day long.
Yeah.
For sure.
Don't tell Chance this. Chance, don't listen to this. Trade me Jarvis.
I see what you're trying to do here.
Oh,
okay. He's doing something in the Fantasy Chairman Dynasty League, making moves, eh? All right, we're going to move on to tight ends here. We've got 2 tight ends, and this is going to round out our blind resume. So, Matt, if you can hang on and just try to keep that squatchy brain of yours racking here, we'll get you through this.
It's our last one.
Hopefully this one's a little easier.
Okay, and a reminder, this is tight ends. I'm not throwing you a quarterback or a wide receiver combo.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, so tight ends. So player A had 75 receptions on 97 targets for 787 yards, which is good for 10.5 yards per reception, and had 6 receiving touchdowns for 154 points. Player B had 43 receptions for 65 targets for 705 yards, good for 16.4 yards per reception, and had 9 receiving touchdowns for 146 points, half point PPR.
Let me go with player B, Mark Andrews.
Not Mark Andrews.
Oh, nope.
Oh,
Nope.
Travis Kelce.
Not Travis Kelce.
Oh, dude.
Man, come on, man. No way.
Travis Kelce played all 16.
Well, I didn't tell him the games yet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I thought you had told him the game.
Shut up,
My
man.
bad, sorry.
Shut up.
So the hints.
Those are my heads.
Bringing out the demon in Alex over here. Yeah. Okay, so the hints
So
are...
hints, yeah, hints. Here we go. Player A was 13 games, and player B was 14 games.
Is player A Evan Ingram?
Not Evan Ingram.
Ah,
That's a
Last
pretty good
hint
guess,
here.
though.
Finished Player A finished as tight end 6, and player B, tight end 7.
What? Now I'm blown away here.
He's not sure.
Now I feel foolish for saying Mark
13
Andrews.
games for player A. 13.
9 touchdowns?
6.
Wait, okay.
Player A was
B
6
had 9.
touchdowns. Player
Player
B was
B
9.
had 9 and played 14 games.
My God.
So both of these guys missed some time to injury.
But player B is a diesel truck in the end zone, apparently.
Had a great yards per reception, 16.4 yards per reception for player B.
Mm-hmm.
Who the heck is that?
He had a great last quarter of the season. Phenomenal last quarter of the season.
Tyler
wait.
Higbee.
It is not Tyler Higbee.
Nope.
What?
I gave you the wrong hint, Matt. I'm sorry.
Ben's just messing this up with
I'm
the
just
bad hints.
I looked at the wrong name when I was looking at ADPs over here. I matched them. Sorry. My bad.
That's okay.
Ben, silence yourself over there. You're throwing him off.
No, I'm just trying to really get him thinking.
You're throwing him for a loop.
I'm reading the wrong names.
Quit looking at that.
Bouncing over here.
I've pushed out
3 screens
Andrews,
up.
Kelsey, Waller, all those guys. And now I'm just trying to think of those kind of tweener tier guys. But if we're not talking about Higbee, then we're not talking about Hooper.
Are we?
Oh, I'm talking about Austin Hooper. I was gonna say I thought Hooper was tight end 4.
Which one's Hooper?
He's got to be B because he was.
He was not B.
He's player A.
Player A, tight end 6. He played in 13 games. He got injured there and was, I think at one point they considered putting him on the IR, and then they pulled him off. He missed 3 or 4 weeks in a row.
I forgot about that, but I do know that because they have some guy named Caden Smith or something, some no-namer that actually had 2 pretty solid weeks just because system tight end.
Well, do you know who B is?
He only had 43 receptions, 65 targets, so way below what Austin Hooper had. Hooper had 75 receptions. Player B had 43.
He's catching a touchdown every 5 passes.
Basically, yeah.
Pretty much.
Who the heck is this guy?
That's pretty much what he did. He's on the same team as the guy who broke the reception record.
Oh, gosh, he's Hunter Henry.
Nope.
Wait, no.
The reception record, man.
That's the Chargers reception record.
NFC South. NFC South.
You're too fixated on Keenan Allen, man.
Yeah.
You quit trying to push players you're trying to trade.
My goodness.
I already traded him.
NFC South.
He likes
NFC South.
He likes to make food.
Who
He
dat?
does a lot of cooking.
Who is this guy?
Jared Cook, man.
Jared Cook. Jeez. Can't get any
I was
more.
going to say there's no Bengals wide receiver.
I said he does a lot
The
of.
Bengals aren't in the NFC South.
We've got Matt completely flustered right now,
goodness.
and I
This
will.
is so tough.
I
This
will
is so
take
hard.
blame. I know it is. Like I said, we wanted to get you on here so that I could just mess with your mental fortitude before I square off against you.
So yeah, think about it. I mean, when I bring up Jared Cook to you, did you think that he caught 9 touchdowns last year?
Not even a little bit.
Yeah, or had 705 receiving yards. I mean, yeah, and he missed a couple games.
Yeah, efficiency through the roof. It was crazy.
He's on. I would love for him to be on my redraft this year.
Yeah,
because he's going tight end. What's his ADP like?
Let me
Tight
find
end
it for you
15,
here.
which is disgusting.
well,
which
compared
is
to what Austin Hooper
Jack
is.
Doyle.
Yeah, there's going to be a big gap between Hooper and Cook this year. I mean,
Cook has bumped up a little bit. He's being drafted as tight end 9, and Austin Hooper is being drafted as tight end 10. So,
okay, all right.
They're right
Well,
by each
people
other.
are catching on to your show.
They haven't even heard it yet, and they're already
This hasn't even gone out yet.
they're already on top of it.
They already know, though. Yeah.
So, but
Wow.
yeah, I mean, when you think of 2 players, comparing them to very similar stat lines and point totals, I bet you wouldn't have thought Hooper was right within 10 points of Hooper and Cook.
I will say this. I think that just by the health of Kamara, I think that Jared Cook falls off a little bit from 9 touchdowns, and Kamara takes some of that back.
I would expect some regression in the touchdown efficiency of Jared Cook, but
I think the health of Kamara, and then also the addition of Emmanuel Sanders is really going to cut into Jared Cook.
Jared Cook is like a deep shot guy and end zone guy for Drew Brees.
Pretty much.
That's pretty much all. He gets that shot with him, and he just takes it.
Yep.
So
it's a deep down the seam shot.
I wouldn't be worried about Emmanuel Sanders.
No.
Too much.
No, definitely not. All right. Well, that does it for our blind resumes. Now that we've scrambled Matt's brains to the point of no return, I can...
Scrambling my brain.
I can start doing some square-offs here with the Sasquatch and maybe sway some people towards the players my way. But thanks for joining us for the first relaunch episode of the Fantasy Chairmen Podcast there, Fantasy Sasquatch.
You're welcome.
I
appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Find that man on Twitter at Fantasy Squatch. And with us, you can find us on Twitter. We are at Chairman Fantasy and at FindFF Leagues, www.fantasychairmen.com. What else, Alex?
You can listen, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Google Podcasts. And, like I said, rate and review us. We appreciate it. And, we're happy to be putting stuff out to you guys.
That's right. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. See you later.
Adios.